No face powder, nothing elegant about today. Shoot, even my brows showing. I'm having one of those days. I made a mistake today since I've been feeling better of going out and scrubbing the deck. We have like a tiled in deck that goes all the way around our house. It's covered. It's got a teak ceiling. I cleaned everything for the teak ceiling today because I've been feeling better. And I guess I'll have to start cleaning the teak ceiling tomorrow or the next day. But here I am. So that's what I've been thinking about a lot is the whole disability, being disabled. What does that look like? Do other people get to tell you what your consent is for things? And the reason that I bring this up is because I've had some bad experiences in my own life. And recently I've read some on Reddit where other people have had, hideous experiences. Boy, I really look thrown together. I just got out of the shower. Okay, because it's 100 degrees outside and I'm out there in that. I'm Suzanne Thickemeyer. I wrote for Pathos for nearly 10 years. I wrote before that for various other publications. I'm still writing for various publications. Why am I talking about disability? Because I myself am disabled. I have mast cell. Since that happened to me 17, 16 years ago, it has opened a new horrible world up to me. What do I mean by that? And I've got to adjust my shirt. My bra keeps showing. Okay, better. One of the things that I saw on Reddit the other day was somebody complaining about having gone to a teaching hospital, and students had been in the room while this man was having his little thing, and it involved his anus, to put it nicely. I addressed that on one of my guest appearances. Disability doesn't look a certain way, and many are invisible. Most are invisible, Melody. I'd say there are far fewer. And I get that all the time. You don't look sick. I get that frequently from people that don't know me. People haven't seen me at my best. People who only seeing me now are assuming that this is a perfectly normal, nice me. Playing in the rain, yeah. I've got to do that next. I've got to fold clothes. But for now, I finally cleaned the deck after 18 months of it. Gave a real good scrub. And I'm just kind of exhausted because that's the other reality of disability. You can't do as much as you used to. Some things get put off again and again and again. And that was one of those things that I've been putting off till a day when I felt okay. So everybody wants to say you don't look sick a lot of times with disabilities, unless they see you whip out the cane. Then they're like, oh, but my Aunt Marge, 3 times removed, learned to walk again and let go of her cane because she used essential oils or whatever, yoga, whatever. Trying to get an accommodation because I literally can't wear a mask and need to be seated in an office. Getting talked to like I'm a piece of by medical professionals. Yeah, and that needs to stop too. There are too many instances. Relentless, they have no idea. Yeah, they don't. I was going to say that's a tough one because for a lot of people they can wear masks. Many can't. Well, there's some that can't, and the ones that can't. And here it's been a special type of weirdness about it because if I use my cane and I go to the auto mercado here, there's 3 disabled parking spaces. They're always taken up by people who don't have disability accommodations. The disabled parking spaces are on a raised parking lot that you have to walk up a flight of stairs or go up a very windy, very sharp angled wheelchair ramp that nobody in a wheelchair could ever use. It's not unlike they think they can force themselves in a wheelchair, walk up a flight of stairs and see the doctor. Well, there's some people that want to say that too. I've seen that. I saw a bunch of people complaining about disabilities on Reddit too because of that. They were complaining about being denied. Well, one lady, I read an article, was the writer, that wrote about going to a nightclub in DC and being denied entrance because there was no way for her to go up the flights of stairs. But none of them want to be reasonable. So, okay, let's party. Yeah, isn't that how it is with Prairie when you're talking, especially when you're talking with medical professionals, think they know it all and think you know nothing. They treat you that way. And where was I? I have to go back to what I was talking about originally, when I was talking about, okay. I was talking about people deciding you look well. That was part of it. And permissions. So this guy on Reddit was outraged. He had gone to a teaching hospital. They brought in students to watch his procedure on his anus, and he flipped out and was screeching and carrying on about it and very upset. And it was kind of interesting because people on Reddit were more reasonable than I would have thought. They told him, it's like, you went to a teaching hospital. Well, I'm going to be drinking the entire time from my water bottle to answer the question. Good luck making me drink with a mask on. The Prairie. So this guy was carrying on. He was mad. So everybody said, hey, you went to a teaching hospital. That's what happens at a teaching hospital. But here's what they missed. And I've run across this too myself. When you go to a teaching hospital, you have every right to say, no, I don't want everybody in the room eyeballing this stuff naked. You can say that. I've had to say it. I had to say it one time at UVA when I was getting a pelvic, because one of the interns was giggling about something the doctor said about having to get a longer speculum, and I was just very not comfortable. So there have been times when I have been in that situation. And when you're disabled, people act like twice as goofy about it. It's kind of like, relax, you're disabled. They should be able to do what they want. Heck no. You are the one that has responsibility for saying, yes, that person can come in here. No, that person can't come in here. No, I want my privacy. That's really what it boils down to. And doctors like to act like if you're disabled, you have waived all your rights for all of that. They can treat you like the SHIT. Then you can't say no to any procedures or things they want to do. And if you do, they're going to try to gaslight you and make you seem crazy. Now, I've not had that here except with one doctor, and that's the one that told me I had MS, even though I clearly had a stroke. And I started thinking about this last night because the whole Marvon Mcrae circle of crazy. Everybody, please leave that family alone. They deserve their privacy. Well, and that's what I wanted to say. His wife, Dre, was taking pictures of him in the hospital from early on. She was showing his upper neck where you could clearly see the rope marks. He clearly did try to hang himself. And he was completely unconscious. So exactly why she thought that was okay to show those pictures, because even if you're unconscious, you still have privacy rights. You still have those rights. You don't waive those rights when you go in the hospital. His wife should have been kicked out for starting to do that. He was disabled. Again, it's another one of those things, conscious or unconscious, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be put up with it. Not totally related. Once I had a sub GYN do my annual, and he asked me to exam if I was sexually active. I said no, and he said, oh, oh, Melody, that's funny and horrible at the same time. The lady that was giggling, the doctor who started giggling over my pelvic exam and got everybody else to start giggling, was giggling because the gyno was frustrated because they had to go to longer speculum than normal. I've had 3 kids. I had natural childbirth. Of course, it's not going to be this big around or this long. So, and it was a very uncomfortable situation, but you have every right in those uncomfortable situations. And if you're unconscious, the hospital has a responsibility to protect your rights. And yeah, you're right, Perry. None of that is appropriate whatsoever. Them commenting on vaginal tightness, longness, or anything else. It's not appropriate. But sometimes they do that crap. That's why I go to Terry Martin. This happened with a woman's UIN with me. This happened with a woman. Melody, it sounds like yours did not. Yours happened with a man. And men do sometimes tend to make those kind of crazy remarks. So I'm just so upset from viewing the pictures of him in the hospital. And also, I don't know how many of you go to follow Jill Rodriguez. Jill Rodriguez is a minor league quiverful player. She wants to be as famous as the Duggars. She's sort of kind of Duggar adjacent. She is married. Her daughter is married to one of Anna Duggar's brothers. She is awful. She's awful, awful. So I'm getting ready to start, her too. She is the most inappropriate person I've ever seen online. The stuff she posts is just mind-boggling some days. And I just can't take it. Some days I'm like, almost every day when I'm looking at her. She has negative boundaries, Terry Martin, negative boundaries. And she was raised in a kind of a quiverful, evangelical, fundamentalist kind of lifestyle. Her mother raised her that way. The anesthesiologist should have said something about the surgical patient. Absolutely. So she has negative boundaries. She's posted inappropriate things about her children. She had the nerve to post all about her daughter's wedding that she spent me all of $100 decorating for and doing the refreshments for. I was pretty astounded by the awfulness of that wedding, but that's all beside the point. Inappropriate. She has done stuff like her sister became a quadriplegic because of a car accident, which is tragic. No doubt. That is a tragic thing. But she was posting pictures from the ER. Okay. She has posted a funeral poem and had a funeral for her sister's legs because she's quadriplegic now. Just so everyone knows, you can fire any personnel for your medical care on the spot. I've done so before and just did it again today. Prairie, exactly. And if you have a concern with a family member that is being inappropriate with somebody who is unable to express themselves in any way, be they under anesthesia or whatever, you have the right to go to medical personnel and say, that person is being inappropriate with your patient, and have them removed. So I'm working up to Jill. So Jill has done horrible things in hospitals before. She had a funeral for her sister's legs. I think at hospitals, there are patient advocates to help you. Terry, you would think so. Nobody's helping Marvon because his wife has posted all these pictures of him up in the bed. And I don't know how appropriate that is. Sharing it on social media willy-nilly. We're not talking to just family members. We're talking to raise money, all kinds of different things. Jill Rod equals Killy Bean. No Jill Bean. Her mom's drain line to her literal brain got infected because Kilda wouldn't quit effing with her hair. Yeah, hands off. You're right. She washed her mother's hair in the hospital. Her mother had a stroke. Her mother had a severe stroke. I think they said it was in the center of her brain. So I'm guessing from everything she's saying, it may have been in the thalamus like mine was. They had to run a central line to drain fluids. They had to run a line into her brain to drain fluids off. And that's not real unusual with some kinds of strokes. I know somebody who had to get a shunt because he had a brain tumor, and then they took that out, and then his brain started doing crazy stuff. So he had to have a shunt. And I think that we're looking at a shunt with her mother, I think was what I'm hearing. But here's where she's so inappropriate. Her mother has had this severe brain injury. And let me tell you, that ain't easy to recover from as light as my first stroke was. It was still a hard thing to recover from. So she's in there every day posting pictures of her mother's hair off to do the drain. She's washing me She's washing her mom's hair with a line in her brain, going to create more and more and more and more infection. You can't do that with people who have a central line going into their head of any sort. The patient advocate just called me outside my name today. Yes, and Jill never refers to Amy without referring to her disability. Amy the quadriplegic. Hey, Grace Peter. So as badly damaged as Jill's mother is, and she is, there's no doubt. She's been in the hospital a long time. She's going to probably be in the hospital for quite some time. If I were Amy, I'd bust old girl in her mouth to show her my arms still do in fact work. Pray, even if your arms didn't work, get your husband to bust her in the mouth. Somebody, a kid, somebody, because she's unbelievably inappropriate with her sister. And now she's unbelievably inappropriate with her poor mother, who is still quite confused, who faces a really long road back recovery-wise, because this isn't an easy thing to recover from. Even if it's just a TIA, a little tiny brain bleed, a tiny, tiny little mini stroke, that's still 6 months of horrible, horrible fatigue that I can't even begin to describe. So her mother is facing a rather big challenge, and Jill is violating her patient rights by going in there and washing her hair, posting oodles of pictures online all the time. Jill Rod, couldn't agree more. Jill has no boundaries. Jill has no boundaries whatsoever. And I don't know if she was raised by Trish to have no boundaries, but she doesn't have them. All you have to do, I don't know why the nurses haven't stopped her. I saw yesterday that they now have a box up somewhere in the hospital. I don't know if it's in her mother's room or if it's in the family lounge down the hall, where it is, but they have a box. What the hell? I guess that was thunder. The box is filled with the smiley face tracks that Jill and her husband print off, David. A few days before, she talked about some kind of huge order for smiley face tracks and showed all the kids putting them together. Because let's be real here, it's the kids that are running the printing ministry, not her husband or her. They're not going to dirty their hands with anything looking like work. So I'm guessing that big order, part of it, if not all of it, was for Jill to put her, where will you go if you die stuff. And she has a cardboard box just getting her right on there. So she is acting so inappropriate all over the hospital. I don't know how they've not kicked her out, because you can't do that. It'll be interesting to see what becomes of his ministry once J-Rod has married everybody off. Grace, I think it will fold. They will come up with something else to do. I don't know. He does preach, I guess. He preaches at different places. And I don't think his preaching skills are so awesome. I've watched him preach before. Like, I'm seriously thinking this turtleneck is now a vulnerable person, and think Jill is compromising her safety, thinking about making a hotline call. Prairie, I agree. It needs to happen. It needs to happen because her mother is definitely a vulnerable person. I don't think her father can tell her no. For whatever reason, people raised in that type of environment have a horrible time with the word no. Particularly when somebody wraps what they're doing in Jesus. When they call out the Jesus and spread it all over everything and say, well, I'm doing this for the glory of God. And people think, okay, back off. And it's just unfortunate that that's what's going on. His preaching is awful. It is, Grace. And I remember watching Timmy preach, her son, Timothy, and the other one, Philip, and they're not much better. That seems to be a thing that I can think of, is that people in this, I know too many people in the States who are grifters that grift by being pastors. Being called to be the shepherd of a flock does not mean you can fleece people. It just does not. It's supposed to be about caring for others, caring for your community. Being a shepherd is a whole lot much more than give me the money, show me the money. And I don't know if they actually get that. I'm not sure why David doesn't have his own church. It seems like at this point he would. Uh Prairie, don't think it hadn't crossed my mind. Because it has. It's like, damn, these people are gripping so damn hard. And then I'm like, no, because I have to look at myself in the mirror every day. And if I looked at myself in the mirror, I would be flipping out if I was doing that stuff. Just like if I was torturing Marvon Mcrae's poor mother, Letitia Bias, it would be horrible. I couldn't live with myself. I'm not that kind of person. And Jill just has no boundaries and she goes all these places. And now she's inflicting all the trap on her mother, her poor mother, who's very confused. And just from what little she is saying, what Jill is saying, and seeing how her mother is not doing really well, I think the stroke was a pretty devastating one. Will she come back? I don't know. I think the only thing that will help her come back, and I kind of know this from personal experience. I was talking to the pharmacist in Walmart the other day because I got a flu shot, because they're projecting that this year's flu season is going to be hideous, and it's already underway here and it's being hideous. So time to get the shot. Well, I'm in there. He's asked my medical history, and I'm telling him, he's right on there. And I told him the stroke I had. And he said, it's amazing how far you've come back. And it's like, well, I didn't have a lot of choice. It was either lay down and die or come back, do the work to come back. And I did the work to come back. And that's what I wanted to say. It's going to take work. Terry, I like to think so. Not only have a theology degree, but have a lot of courses about psychology and counseling and different kinds of skills they'll use. It's not just knowing the Bible. I think that's probably very little of it, but they should have a good, strong grounding in the Bible and in how to treat hurting people. I really think so. And how to spot abuse. So much abuse is covered up. And that's one of the things that bothers me about some types of evangelical churches. Bethel. For the biggest offenders of that. They seem to think that if you're ill, you've done something wrong, or somehow somebody has cursed you or something. That's not it at all. Things happen. People get sick. We have car accidents. We fall off ladders and stupid things all the time. We just do. And saying that, oh, God can just heal you of that any minute. We're going to pray for you to be healed, but if you're not healed, it's your fault. You've got some kind of something going on, is the most unhelpful and painful thing you can go through. And God knows I dealt with that in my old church, especially in regards to my husband. And it damn near took him down. It damn near did. Thankfully, we were able to leave that place. Once people start trying to tell you that you have got some kind of demonic oppression, family curse, anything like that, that they say stands in the way you're healing, pay them no mind. They have no earthly idea what's actually going on with you. And since they have no idea, they're going to take their Bronze Age religion and try to wrap it around whatever is going on with you, even though what's going on with you has not a darn thing to do with religion at all. They will say these things. And that's one thing that's been interesting about watching Jill dealing with this. Jill also comes from a religion that believes in praying over everything. And they talk about Satan. She's blamed Satan for everything from slicing her finger on a can of green beans. No lie, she did blame Satan for that one, even though it could have been stupidity or any number of things. She could have just grabbed the can wrong. So I think that Satan doesn't have to do much. We do a whole lot on our own. We can do bad all by ourselves, as stupid Tyler Perry likes to say in his movies. he didn't need to do anything to make us do our worst. And so Bean C, yeah, Bean Satan, Green Bean Satan. That was one of her dumber posts. If you ever get a chance, go look at her blog. It is really a whole lot of nonsense. And I know she didn't know any better because she was raised that way. She thinks she was given away to an older man when she was 19, given away to her husband who was in his 30s and had no business fooling with a 19-year-old girl. At least I think he was in his 30s at that time. So there's so much to look at the Rodriguez family and just go, back away from. They're kind of like a horror show all in of their own. And that's without touching the fact that it looks like she doesn't feed those kids. I don't know if she does or not. She says that they were all naturally thin, but I don't quite see it like that. I've been around this block a few dozen times more than her, seen all kinds of things. So I started out talking about disabilities and started ranting about Jill Rodriguez because she is ignoring her mother's needs. And like you said, her mother would qualify as a vulnerable person, and taking hundreds of pictures and posting them everywhere. If she wanted to post an older photo of her mother and update people every day about what was going on, that I could see. Killy Bean acknowledges how they don't cook meals when they're on the road. I've heard that. And they're on the road constantly. That is true. I know. And any of her meals that you see her cook that she posts on there, it's not enough food for everybody. There just is not, especially in the holiday ones. I am always amazed at how little food she gets away with preparing. What they should also have is a counseling degree. Absolutely. Absolutely. They should have a counseling degree or quite a lot of classwork in it. Quite a lot. So that's my rant about all this. If you can, pray for the poor Marvon Mcrae family. They really don't deserve any of this stuff. This whole free-flowing river of SHIT is coming at them from all sides. They are not public people. They're not celebrities. Just because a few YouTubers have latched onto their story and are busy telling everybody what their story is from every angle, and it's not right. It boggles my mind. They're only required to be booked smart. I wouldn't perform open heart surgery because I'm not a doctor or a surgeon. If you're not a counselor or a therapist, Grace. And the thing is, it happens. We had one I wrote about in my book, a therapist that was the worst. He told me that my husband's depression was because I was not submissive enough, because I worked outside the home. I teach kids with disabilities. We work on self-advocacy so they can be informed medical consumers. Terry, that is excellent, because that's one of the things I wanted to say that I neglected while I've been hopping around like crazy. It's hard to learn to be your own advocate, but that's really what you have to do, because the world's not going to do it for you. That's for sure. And not everybody is completely enlightened. Not every provider is. Not everybody else. Heck, I knew a doctor that worked at the clinic I worked at that all he did was run around and say the F word and scream about his computer not working. And he was a terrible doctor. He had all kinds of pain patients that came in for OxyContin. Every time I turned around, I was having to deal with a DEA request for medical records on somebody that they had busted for having some huge amount of OxyContin. Oh, I know. My dad was a pastor, and I was horrified at some of the advice I heard being dished out. Grace, that was one of the things that was really good about the Methodist Church. They have this program called the Stevens Ministry Program. And if you go through, it's like a 6 months training. If you go through all the training, you can counsel people without even being an official licensed therapist. Or it's more a listening ear and giving good advice that always leads people back to Jesus. And it's always dealing with people who are in crisis, people who've lost loved ones, all sorts of things like that. When my friend who was killed by the cop died, our pastor asked us all to stick on our Stevens minister badges and be there at the funeral. So there's many a times too when we were called out to help out when there was big tragedies that would happen. And it was always a very humbling experience for me to be able to be privileged enough to deal with people going through crisis. So there are going to be all kinds of different opportunities for people to do that sort of thing and for people to receive help, because it really does. Having somebody listen to you who validates the way you're feeling by saying, I hear you, I understand how you're feeling exactly, or I understand, or I hear you saying that you're feeling X, Y, and Z. Just having somebody to say that sometimes is enough to turn your situation, your thinking around. If you feel heard, being heard is something in our society that doesn't take place much anymore. Most people don't listen. I know I'm not the best about listening either, but I try. Okay, guys. I'm going to go ahead and go. It's been 30 minutes. I need to lay down. Stupid me. I did all that outside. Now I'm like, take care of yourselves. Don't accept any BS from anybody in the medical field who tells you something that you know is not true or tries to gaslight you into pretending that you don't have rights. You know you do. And if you see somebody stomping on the boundaries of somebody else who is unable to say, hey, stop posting those pictures, stand up for them, please.